Welcome, everyone. I'm Pamela Topper with Nexternal, and I see that there are still a number of people getting onto the webinar, so I'm going to waste just a minute of time here. We've got a huge audience today for this webinar on member choice clubs, and that makes me really happy because it's a really big deal. I'm waiting to see more and more people getting on, but I don't want to waste anybody else's time, so I'm just going to keep going. Having developed and operated many wine clubs in my 20-plus years in the wine business, and also having consulted with a lot of non-wine merchants who offer clubs, this topic is truly near and dear to my heart. You know, technology has evolved so much to make club management so incredibly easy these days, and I'm really happy to be able to share these efficiencies with you because we all know that club management can get out of hand really fast. One point I want to make before we get started, I see that most of you attending today are from wineries, so in my presentation I'll use wine and wine clubs in my examples, but in fact these concepts apply regardless of whether your product is wine. It can be, you know, coffee or tea, baked goods, personal care products, or even something like lingerie. Really any product or item that lends itself to repeat purchases, either because it gets consumed like wine and tea, or because people like to own variety and update their collection, like lingerie. So today we're going to quickly cover several things. First, the definition and benefits of member choice clubs and whether they're right for you. When we get to the club member experience, I'll take you through the customization process as if you were a club member so you can see how simple it is for them. We'll go over your merchant customization options, meaning what kinds of changes you can allow and restrict your customers from making while customizing their orders. And we'll cover some best practices recommendations relating to creating these clubs, communicating with your customers, and filling orders. Of course, then I'll take a few questions as time allows, which you can type right into the webinar chat window throughout the webinar, and I'll address them at the end. Do me a favor and please restrict your chat window comments to questions, or it'll get really hard for me at the end to wade through and actually find the questions. So what is a member choice club? I think we all know that people can get pretty irritated when they don't get things their way, and member choice clubs fix that. Basically, we call them member choice clubs because during the window of time you set prior to fulfillment, members can easily customize their shipment contents in their online account at their convenience without having to call you, write you an email, or deal with any kind of messy communication logistics in any way. Automated management of these clubs both supports your interests as the merchant, such as inventory and spend restrictions and requirements, and significantly reduces your admin and processing costs. So in a nutshell, you create modifiable orders. The customer modifies them online within the parameters you set during the window of time that you set. Then the orders auto-activate at the end of the customization period or earlier if you allow members to activate as they customize, and then you process the orders just like normal. So I think the benefits of member choice clubs are pretty clear. Most importantly, member choice clubs provide maximum flexibility for club members, which we know makes them happy. I think almost any club manager will tell you that while clubs used to be processed in a manner that basically treated all members and packages alike, the exceptions have now almost become the rule. Out of their never-ending efforts to keep every member happy, club managers, unfortunately, have grown all too accustomed to spreadsheets, emails, sticky notes, just to manage all the requests and exceptions, which often takes weeks. I am sure you've heard it all if you have a club now. Mixed wines with no Zinfandel, white wines but no Chardonnay, I only want Cabernet and Pinot, or I only take packages from one specific shipper. Please ship to one address in the winter, a different address in spring, and here's my favorite, call me first so I can pick my wines before every shipment. And the list goes on. The vast number of these exceptions really proves that people want things their way. Club managers make these accommodations because they realize that if they keep their members happy, they can increase signups and member longevity and ultimately member spending. Secondly, member choice clubs reduce your staff's admin time, which also makes them really happy. You know, clubs are often a merchant's most valuable marketing program, but without member choice clubs, they can also be your employees' biggest headache. With member choice clubs, there's no more processing of 16 to 40 club segments, and don't laugh, I've seen 40 plus segments a lot. No more sticky notes, no more hand-entered special orders for days and days, no more pre-shipment phone calls to customers. It's all totally streamlined and automated to maximize everyone's benefits. Your employees will definitely groan less, and they'll have more time to sell more wine instead of processing orders you've already got. So it's fantastic for everyone. Finally, merchant choice clubs serve your underlying interests. They support your inventory considerations and your expected revenue minimums, and they increase average shipment amounts because it is now super easy for members to add on to each order without hassles. So all that said, are member choice clubs right for you? In most cases, I'd say absolutely. I don't really see much of a downside. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised about how many members appreciate your putting the reins in their hands. I mean, after all, there are a lot of control freaks out there, and they're our customers. So bottom line, I believe member choice clubs are pretty much a no-brainer and truly present a win-win for both the merchant and the member. So now I want to have you take a look at how to create these modifiable orders. So I'm going to take you to our demo order management system for our fictional winery called Surfside Cellars. Let's see if I can get there without a hitch. Good. So in your order management system, or OMS, you create your club orders just like always, using our easy batch processing feature. You'll name your shipment, you'll select your club, your payment method, and you'll, in this case, you'll place your order, and what you're doing is you're setting up your default order by selecting the items they'll receive if they don't customize. So let's say these guys are going to get 2 Zinfandel, 2 Syrah, and let's give them 2 Sauvignon Blanc. So I'm going to check out, and before I actually place the order, I'm going to tell the system that it's a member choice order. I'm going to select an auto activation date, which marks the end of their customization period. Optionally, I can specify that they have to spend a minimum dollar amount. In this case, I'll put $163. And I can also optionally say, and they have to buy at least X number of bottles. In this case, I'll say 6. And you can require certain line items that can't be changed. So let's say we're going to require the 2 Syrah. They can change the Zin and the Sauvignon Blanc, but they have to take the Syrah. I'm choosing not to allow customer order cancellation, and I'll talk more about why later, and I'll submit my order. Now, while the system is creating a default order for every club member, it's also sending each club member an email letting them know that their order is ready for customization, and it's got a link in that email which if they click on it, it'll take them to a page that looks like this, which is their order customization page. So now let's take a look at their experience. At the top here, they'll see any message you wish. It might be a good idea to lay out how to proceed, and maybe even provide information about an upcoming pickup party for your pickup members. In the messaging that you see here, I've asked them first to confirm billing, shipping, and payment info, and since I personally don't believe in purely administrative messaging to customers, I've also done a little subtle selling by suggesting they add wines to their order, and I've actually done that in 3 places, here, here, and here. Note that I've also encouraged them to activate their club order if they change any line items in it. Why? That's a gift to my fulfillment team. If all the customized orders early activate, then I can get them to fulfillment early to be packed as one-offs. What's left on the auto activation date then are all the boxes that pack the same, making it easier and quicker to pack and ship the remaining orders. So as a member, I can see the auto activation date, again, which marks my customization deadline. And when I look at the blue action links, I can see that I can edit, for example, my shipping information. When I click on that link, I can make the edits here, and I can indicate whether this change applies only to this order or whether it's permanent. I can also enter a gift message if, for example, I'm having this particular shipment sent to someone else as a gift. Just like shipping, I can also modify my billing and payment information and indicate whether those are just for this order or a permanent change. Now, while we all know that those administrative items are of paramount importance to us, now I'm going to show you the really juicy stuff for the member. They can click Edit Products. When they do, they'll get a box explaining how it works, and when they hit Continue, you'll see that the store and the cart appear with the default order wines already loaded in the cart. I can increase and decrease bottle quantities. I can add wines to my cart with the Add to Cart buttons, and I can delete wines from the cart with these X's. And I'm going to delete the Sauvignon Blanc here. Note, by the way, that I cannot delete the Syrah. Why? Because when we placed this order, we said they have to take the Syrah. It won't let me reduce the number of bottles either. And I could delete the Zinfandel, but you can see there's no X here next to the Syrah. Also, I've gone below the 6-bottle minimum and the $163 spend minimum, so down here I get a note to that regard instead of a Save Changes button. Notice also that I can't add wines that the merchant hasn't allowed. I want to show you something. Notice that there are 5 wines here for me to select from. In the actual storefront, I've got 6 wines on this page and a whole bunch of categories on here. But on the product level, you can indicate whether or not a product is available for adding to customized orders. So I, prior to setting this up, said, well, the Pinot Grigio that was on this page isn't going to be available for this order, so it doesn't show up. And also you can see that all the categories over here, I had a category for hats and logo items, for example, and I don't want that to count as an item in their order. I don't want to include it. So those also disappear. You have a lot of flexibility about what people can and cannot add. And I'll show you one more thing. Let's say I try and add 3 bottles of Viognier to this order. I set up on the product level that a client can only purchase up to 2 bottles of the Viognier. The system knows that and actually adjusted it, only allowing me to add up to 2 bottles of Viognier to my order. So with that, I've changed my order. I'm going to save my changes. And now I can activate my member choice order. So I'm going to click on activation. Well, I'm actually going to click on activation. And I'm going to get a button to click here. And when I check that, I get a message telling me I'm going to get an order activation confirmation email. Going back to the order management system to see what you'll see in your order list screen, you'll see here that my prior pending order is now processable and activated. And you can see that the rest of the pending orders that we created are not activated yet. If they're not early activated by members, they'll auto-activate themselves on the date you set when you place the order. They'll just all of a sudden become active with the default contents in them, or with the customized contents if a customer customizes but doesn't activate. They'll just become processable orders, and you process them just like always. So now we've just covered kind of a lot of different controls. So what I want to do is go back to screen here and just go over the customization options that you can set as a merchant, because you really have a lot of control. You can control the customization period, when and how long it is, and whether folks can in the order, like Pinot Grigio in our example. You can set a minimum order dollar value, a spend amount, like we did at the 163. You can set a minimum or maximum quantity of each included item, like we did on the Viognier. You can set a minimum total item quantity, like 6 bottles. And you can require that specific line items must be included in specific quantities like we did for the Syrah. Some things we didn't just see in our example, but that you can also do: you can discount some items and not others, or discount items differently. That's all done on the product level, and you're in total control of that. Also, this is pretty cool, you can allocate some items but not others. So I've got clients that have a wine club and regularly available to the public wines, but they also have some wines on allocation. And what this system will do will respect those allocations. So let's say I'm a club member and I have an allocation of a wine and I've already purchased that allocation in a prior order. I'm not going to be able to add that wine to this order. But if I haven't yet purchased my prior allocation and it's still available to me, and you, the merchant, say that that's an item that is addable to my order, then I'll be able to add it. The point being, of course, that all your marketing programs work together beautifully in the system. Lastly, you can allow members to skip the order if they wish. I told you I don't think that's a great idea, and I'm going to go over why not in just a moment when I go over my best practices recommendations. You know, we've seen how closely you can manage customizations, and we've seen how easy it is for the club member to customize their order. Here are some things I think you ought to think about in setting up these clubs, managing them, and processing your orders. First, and in my view, most importantly, each and every time you set up a Member Choice Club order, use your system as if you were the club member before sending your email telling them it's ready to go. There are a lot of moving parts to this, and it'll be a new experience for them. So you need to be sure that your communications to them are crystal clear and that you can answer questions about the process if they come up. You won't be able to do that unless you've actually put yourself in their shoes. Second, give members enough time to customize, taking into account that they travel and have busy lives, but not so much time that you remove the sense of urgency. And here's why. Ideally, you'd like every customer to check out the default order to ensure that the shipping, billing, and payment info are all up to date. So don't give them the time to forget about it and not do it. Thirdly, encourage members to early activate when they customize. If you recall our discussion about that earlier, your fulfillment team will thank you for that. And besides, why not get as much cash flow as you can, as early as you can? It just makes total sense. If you're a winery, consider still offering red, white, and mixed clubs if it makes sense with regard to your portfolio, and perhaps if you already do that now. You would run 3 different default orders, but the orders would be closer to serving each group's needs. I don't recommend allowing your customers to skip an order in a self-serve manner, which is why I didn't demonstrate it earlier. I think I would make members thinking of canceling the club altogether and not just the shipment, and also to suggest alternatives designed to save the sale, like delaying the shipment versus canceling it, or reducing their club level, if these will solve the issue. I just think that it's best for you to continue that relationship with the member over the phone in this circumstance. Last but not least, don't get bogged down in administration, and don't forget to suggest a sell along the way. I mentioned earlier that I really don't believe in purely administrative communications. I see those as wasted customer touch points, and I always try to include at least one suggestion like, now it's easier than ever before to add more wines to your shipment. That sounds like you're telling them about a new service, which you are, but you're also connecting the dots for them with the statement. Customers often don't connect the dots for themselves, even if you think they're blatantly obvious. You might even consider actually offering additional product or shipping discounts if, for example, a 6-pack is bumped up to a case. Anyway, I think you get the point. As long as you're talking to them, sell them something. Don't get bogged down in too much administration because their eyes will glaze over. And, even though they're given broad choices, if you do make some subtle suggestions, you can gently lead them toward what you want them to buy. So that actually concludes my presentation. For detailed instructions on how to set up member choice clubs, Just reach out to your external account manager. You know, we're always happy to help, and our help is always free.